Greetings of the day to all my dear students. I hope that you all are in good health. The thought for the day is when one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one which has opened for us. This is Shreya Jadhav welcoming you all to my e-learning channel, and today we are going to learn English grade 11 chapter 4 Landscape of Soul, written by Natalie Troveloy. So now moving ahead, let us go through the introduction for answer. Prose name Landscape of the Soul. Author's name Natalie Troveloy. Genre short story. Summary. In the excerpt from Landscape of Soul, ethics and spirituality in Chinese painting and art is focused on bringing about the essence of inner life and the spirit. So, dear students, always keep this in mind that whenever you write down the question answers, always start with introduction. This creates a really good impact. Moving ahead, let us now start with the summary of the same. In the excerpt from Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Painting, the author tells us that Chinese art is focused on bringing about the essence of inner life and the spirit. A classical Chinese artwork is not meant to reproduce an actual view of landscape. A viewer can often travel through the paintings and reach a dimension beyond time. A Chinese painter wants one to enter his mind. The landscape in the Chinese art is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. A Chinese painting is not a real one, and a Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. He is a multi-dimensional vision. A Chinese painter, Wu Dezhou, was commissioned to paint a landscape for his palace wall by Tang Emperor Zhenzong. The painter had hidden his work behind a screen so that only the emperor could see it. He told the emperor that a spirit dwelled in the cave at the foot of the painted mountain. The painter clapped his hands, the cave door opened, and the painter entered the door. But before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painter and his painting both vanished forever. In another example, a painter wouldn't draw the eye of the dragon he had painted, as he feared it would fly out of the painting once he completed it. In contrast to Chinese painting, European art is a real one. It aims to create perfect resemblance with the original object. The painter aims to reproduce an actual view for the viewer. A European painter wants his viewer to view the painting with the same perspective as that of his own. Another example of the Western type of painting was given, which dated back to 15th century Antwerp, where a blacksmith fell in love with painter's daughter and convinced her father for their alliance by showing his realistic painting skills. He painted a fly with such a delicate realism that the blacksmith tried to sweat the fly away and was deceived. The writer compared the two distinct painting styles by the results both expected to achieve out of their work: a perfect, illusionistic likeness in Europe and the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia was the aim of the two distinctive styles of painting. The concept of sensui means landscape. The literal meaning is mountain water. These two elements together depict the Taoist view of the universe. The mountain represents yang. This element is active and masculine. It reaches vertically towards heaven. It remains stable, warm, and dry in the sun. The water is yin. This element is horizontal and resting on earth, cool, moist, and fluid. The interaction of the receptive feminine aspect of universe yin and masculine aspect yang is the fundamental notion of Taoism. There is also a third element, the middle void, where interaction of yang and yin takes place. Without this element, nothing can happen. It represents the white, unpainted space in the Chinese landscape. The concept of outsider art or art birth was suggested by French artist Jean Dubuffet in 1940s. Outsider art is the artwork usually done by the untrained or naive artists. Outsider art or art birth is a genre of work described as the art of those who have no right to be artists, as they have not received any formal training, yet they show talent and have artistic insight. The artworks are stimulating contrast to a lot of mainstream artworks. The notion of art birth or raw art was of the works that were in raw state with regard to cultural and artistic aspects. The writer refers to an 80-year-old creator director, Mr. Nek Chand. The artist sculpted a paradise out of a stone and recycled materials. He created the famous rock garden in Chandigarh. Being an outsider artist, he is referred to as an untutored genius. Anything and everything, from a tin to a sink to a broken down car, was used by Nek Chand to create the rock garden. His rock garden sculpture, Women by the Waterfall, is the masterpiece and grabbed the attention of thousands. The UK based magazine Raw Vision has featured Nek Chand and his rock garden sculpture Women by the Waterfall on its anniversary issue cover page. So, dear students, this is all about the summary. Now, let us start the reading and explanation of the same. Chapter 4, Landscape of the Soul. A wonderful old tale is told about the painter Wu Dozi, who lived in the 8th century. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by the Tang Emperor Zhenzong to decorate a palace wall. The master had hidden his work behind a screen, so only the emperor would see it. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene, discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. "Look, sir," said the painter, "in this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit." The painter clapped his hands, and the entrance of the cave opened. The inside is splendid beyond anything words can convey. "Please, let me show you, Your Majesty, the way." The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him, and before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painting had vanished from the wall. Not a trace of Wu Dozi's brush was left, and the artist was never seen again in this world. So, now over here the first story, over here we'll be able to see number of stories which is related to painting, information, fascinating stuff, plenty of things. So over here a wonderful old tale, and it is about a painter called Wu Dozi, and this is about the time we are talking about is 8th century. It was his last painting, and the painting was commissioned by the emperor, Tang Emperor Zhenzong. He was supposed to decorate the palace wall. The master had hidden his work behind a screen, so only who was able to see it? The emperor. And for a long while the emperor admired the things. It was a scenic beauty, it was a beautiful scenery which was being presented. So he was admiring the beautiful forest and high mountains, waterfalls, clouds, an immense beautiful sky, men on the hilly paths, birds which were flying. It was really, really good enough. The king was spellbound by looking at that thing. And then the painter told that, "Sir, look over here. At the foot of the mountain, there dwells a spirit. There is a cave." And as soon as the painter clapped his hands, the cave's door opened. Now he said that Majesty, this is a beautiful place and you will love it a lot. He was no, very happy, delighted to see such a fact. And then the painter told that let me show you the way. And he went inside the cave. And before the emperor could step inside, or before he could even utter a word of rejoice, what eventually happened? The cave doors closed. And the emperor was standing struck over there. What to do? All of a sudden, the painting vanished from the wall. Moreover to that, there was not even a small trace of Wu Dozi's brush also left over there. He himself also vanished with that painting. And the artist was never ever seen again in the world. So these sort of fascinating stories, interesting stories are being mentioned over here. Such stories played an important part in China's classical education. The books of Confucius and Zhengzhu's are full of them. They helped the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. Beyond the anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirits in which art was considered. Contrast this story or another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of the dragon he had painted for fear it could fly out of the painting, with an old story from my native Flanders that I find most representative of the Western painting. So now eventually what happened, that China is having plenty of these sort of classical stories. And moreover to that, the second story which they are trying to say is that one of the painter who had drawn a beautiful painting of a dragon, but he would never complete the painting. Okay, he would never draw eye. What was the reason behind it? That he felt that, for example, if he would draw an eye, then the dragon would fly away from the painting. In the 15th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Metzis fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father could not accept a son-in-law in such a profession. So Quentin sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel with such a delicate realism that the master tried to sweat it away before he realized what had happened. Quentin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. These two stories illustrates what each form of art is trying to achieve: a perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe, the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia. So now the third story which represents is about a person called Antwerp. He was a master blacksmith, but somehow he fell in love with a painter's daughter. Now that girl's father was having an ambition that her daughter should marry a painter only and not anybody else. So what happened? Antwerp joined, means he went to the girl's father's shop and he painted a fly. And it was done and drawn so beautifully. It was so artistic and it looked like a reality. And at that time duration, Quentin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He was so much astonished by the drawing which he had made, he loved it. And after that, he means Antwerp married the beloved, and then he became one of the most famous painters of his age. So, art represents plenty of things. It represents perfectness, it represents illusionistic likeness, it represents the essence of inner life and spirit, it represents various things. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance, but the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. The emperor may rule over the territory he had conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. Let me show the way, the thou, a word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious work of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. So now it is the Chinese stories are really very popular. Moreover to that, the emperor commissions a painting that you are supposed to make a painting. He gives order that you are supposed to make. But what to make, how to make, which things are supposed to be presented, all those things are being decided by whom? Not by the emperor, but by the artist. So it is given over here, the irony is given over here that although the state is being ruled by the king, but still the painter says to the emperor that let me show you the way. How and why, what were the thoughts when this particular painting was made? And all these sort of things are appreciated by the painter, that what inspired him to make this painting. Moreover to that, the painting might have gone, but the artist's hard work will always reach its goal beyond any material appearance. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view, as would a Western figurative painting, whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, then back again in a leisurely movement. This is even more true in case of the horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. So now eventually what happens that a classical Chinese landscape doesn't provide an actual viewpoint. See, Chinese paintings are totally imaginative in nature. So The Chinese painter always feels that you should have your own perspective of thinking, of viewing, of admiring the beauty. It isn't compulsory that particularly you are supposed to focus on this thing only, or you are supposed to see the picture in this way. The Chinese painter takes into consideration that it is your idea and your choice how you want to do it. But it is different when it comes to Western or European painters think more of, we can say, no, the figurative painting. They want exactly that what the painter has thought about, you are supposed to think in that particular dimension and way only. You cannot no think in some other perspective, and they want that you should have that their eyesight how they have eventually made. This is even more true in case of the horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. It also requires the active participation of the viewer, who decides at what pace he will travel through the painting, a participation which is physical as well as mental. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and a conceptual space. So, over here, um, the writer is trying to say that it requires a participation's viewers no viewpoint, how you consider it. Moreover to that, it is also been said that the Chinese painter actually does not think like this, that you are supposed to know exactly look like the painting like how I have drawn. They do not want you to borrow his eyes, but they want you to think in different perspectives, ways, dimensions, your ideology, and they want you to enter his mind, the painter's mind, what he had thought while creating this particular painting. So, a landscape, a sketch, drawing, art is an inner one which is full of spiritual and conceptual space. So, dear students, this is all about today's explanation, and in the next video lecture, we shall continue with the same. I hope that you all have understood till here. If you still find any doubt or queries, you can comment down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a nice day, everyone.